You wake up at 3 a.m. from a dream you can't shake. There's something in it, a feeling, a symbol, a face, that feels older than you, familiar in a way that makes no sense. Like you've been here before, lived this moment, carried this weight. Maybe it's the dream where you're falling endlessly, or being chased by something you can't see, or finding yourself in a house with rooms you've never entered but somehow know. You tell yourself it's just your brain processing the day. Random neurons firing, nothing more. But what if you're wrong? What if that 3 a.m. awakening isn't random at all? What if your restless sleep, your unexplained anxiety, your deep sense that something's missing? What if it's all connected to something you've forgotten about yourself? I've been there, lying awake, feeling like I was the only person in the world experiencing this particular brand of loneliness. This sense that I was somehow separate from everyone else, carrying burdens that no one could understand. For years, I thought this disconnection was just my cross to bear, my unique brand of brokenness. Then I discovered something that changed everything. Something that proved I wasn't alone at all. None of us are. What if I told you that the loneliness you feel, the dreams that haunt you, the symbols that move you to tears, what if they're not yours alone? What if they belong to something deeper, something that connects you to every human who's ever lived, ever loved, ever stared at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering why they feel so alone? Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. But I call it the thing that proves you're not as broken as you think, not as alone as you feel, not as disconnected as the world has taught you to believe. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to share might be the missing piece you've been searching for your entire life. Let me tell you about a man who almost lost his mind, and in losing it, found something that would heal millions. Carl Jung wasn't some ivory tower academic theorizing about the human condition from a distance. He was a successful psychiatrist, Freud's golden boy, destined for greatness. And then, at 38 years old, his world fell apart. It started with his famous split from Freud in 1913. But Jung began questioning everything, not just Freud's theories, but reality itself. He started having visions, disturbing, beautiful, terrifying visions that felt more real than his waking life. Imagine being a respected doctor, a man of science, suddenly experiencing things that suggested you were losing your grip on sanity. Jung could have medicated these experiences away. Instead, he did something that required extraordinary courage. He listened to them. He wrote them down in what became known as the Red Book, page after page of his descent into his own psychological underworld, dragons, ancient figures, conversations with parts of himself he didn't know existed, symbols that seemed to come from somewhere beyond his personal experience. For years, Jung thought he was going crazy, but slowly, something extraordinary began to emerge from his darkness. The images coming through him weren't random. They were patterns, ancient patterns. The same symbols, the same stories, the same deep truths that had been emerging in human consciousness for thousands of years. Jung started researching. He dove into mythology, religious texts, fairy tales from cultures that had never interacted with each other. And what he found blew his mind. The same images from his visions were appearing in ancient Egyptian texts, in medieval alchemical manuscripts, in Native American dream traditions, in the cave paintings of our earliest ancestors. Jung realized something profound. His personal breakdown had connected him to something universal. His individual pain had opened a doorway to patterns of human experience that transcended time, culture, and individual psychology. He wasn't going crazy. He was going deeper, deeper than personal experience, deeper than individual psychology, deeper than anything Western science had yet discovered about the human mind. His breakdown became his breakthrough. His wound became his gift to humanity. And that gift? The recognition that we're all connected by something deeper than we ever imagined. Here's what Jung discovered in his own darkness, and what I desperately need you to understand. You are not just the product of your personal experiences. Think about this for a moment. Your body carries the wisdom of millions of years of evolution. Your heart knows to beat without you thinking about it. Your nervous system knows to make you jump at sudden sounds, because for thousands of generations, that startle response kept your ancestors alive. So why would your mind be any different? Jung discovered that just as you inherit physical traits from your ancestors, you also inherit psychological patterns. Not specific memories. That's not what this is about. You inherit the templates, the deep structures for how to be human, the capacity to love, the fear of abandonment, the longing for meaning, the patterns of how we grieve, how we hope, how we make sense of suffering and joy. Jung called this deeper layer the collective unconscious. What he was saying is this: you carry within you the psychological DNA of every human who came before you, every fear they faced, every hope they held, every pattern they lived and died by. This is why certain things move you for reasons you can't explain. Why certain stories feel like they're speaking directly to your soul, even when they come from cultures thousands of miles and thousands of years away from your own experience. You've felt this, haven't you? That strange recognition when you encounter certain symbols, certain stories, certain people. Like meeting someone for the first time but feeling like you've known them forever. Like hearing a piece of music that makes you homesick for a place you've never been. This isn't coincidence. This is your individual consciousness touching something vast and ancient and shared. Every time you've been moved by a sunset in a way that seems out of proportion to just pretty colors in the sky, you were experiencing this connection. Every time you felt drawn to water, to mountains, to fire, you were feeling the pull of symbols that have meant the same thing to humans across all cultures and all time: the hero's journey, the wise old man, the great mother, the trickster, the shadow. These aren't just storytelling devices. They're patterns hardwired into human consciousness. They're the deep structures of how we make meaning, how we grow, how we understand ourselves, and our place in the world. And here's the part that might blow your mind. You're not experiencing these patterns as some abstract psychological concept. You're living them. Right now. Today. That feeling of being called to something greater than yourself? That's the hero archetype stirring within you. That sense that you're avoiding parts of yourself you don't want to face? That's your shadow calling for integration. That longing for a love that completes you? That's your inner opposite seeking expression through relationship. You are not just you. You are the current expression of something vast and ancient and sacred. You are evolution's latest attempt to understand itself. But here's what breaks my heart. Most of us live our entire lives without ever realizing this. We think we're isolated individuals, struggling alone with problems that are uniquely ours. We think our pain is evidence of our brokenness rather than proof of our humanity. We've forgotten that we're part of something larger. We've become disconnected from the very thing that could heal our loneliness and give our lives meaning. But it's still there. It's always been there, waiting for you to remember. Let me tell you about the invisible forces that have been shaping your life since the day you were born. Jung called them archetypes. I call them the deepest patterns of being human. Your shadow, the disowned self, There's a part of you that you've been running from your entire life. It contains everything you've tried not to be, everything you've pushed away, everything you've decided is unacceptable about yourself. But here's the twist. Your shadow doesn't just contain your darkness, it contains your unlived potential, your buried gifts, the parts of yourself that have been waiting in the wings. You know your shadow is active when you have inexplicably strong reactions to certain people. When someone irritates you, and you can't figure out why. When you find yourself saying, "I could never be like that," about someone who's actually showing you a disowned part of yourself. That person who seems so confident when you feel insecure? They might be carrying your unlived assertiveness. That person who seems selfish when you pride yourself on being selfless? They might be showing you that you've never learned to prioritize your own needs. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. And until you turn toward it with curiosity instead of judgment, it will keep showing up in your life through other people. Let me tell you about the invisible forces that have been shaping your life since the day you were born. Jung called them archetypes. I call them the deepest patterns of being human. Your inner opposite, the completer. There's an energy within you that wants expression, qualities you need to develop that often show up in who you're attracted to, who you fall in love with, who you dream about. That person you can't stop thinking about? Look closely at what they embody. Are they more spontaneous when you're overly controlled? More grounded when you're scattered? More assertive when you're passive? Romantic projection happens when you fall in love with someone because they're carrying energy that belongs to you. The relationship feels intoxicating because they seem to complete you. But sustainable love happens when you develop those qualities within yourself. Your truest self. The integrator. There's an organizing principle within you that knows how all your pieces fit together. Jung called it the self, the archetype of wholeness, the part of you that's always been guiding you towards becoming who you're meant to be. The self speaks through synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that seem to guide you toward exactly what you need, through sudden insights that come from nowhere, through the deep knowing that emerges when you're quiet enough to listen. These archetypal forces are operating in your life right now. The question isn't whether they're influencing you. They are. The question is whether you're conscious of their influence, or whether you're being unconsciously driven by patterns you don't understand. Look around you. We live in the most connected time in human history, yet loneliness is an epidemic. We have more information than ever before, yet wisdom seems increasingly rare. We have unprecedented material abundance, yet depression and anxiety are skyrocketing. What happened? We forgot how to speak the language of the soul. We traded symbols for statistics, myths for metrics, depth for data. We decided that if something couldn't be measured, it didn't matter. But the collective unconscious doesn't just disappear because we've decided to ignore it. Those archetypal energies don't evaporate. They go underground. They get twisted. They find other ways to express themselves. Think about our obsession with superhero movies. Why are we so hungry for these stories? Because they're modern myths. They're archetypal patterns dressed up in contemporary clothing. They feed something in us that our rational, scientific worldview has forgotten how to nourish. But when we don't consciously engage with these deeper patterns, they don't disappear. They possess us instead. The shadow we won't face gets projected onto others. Our political enemies, people who look different from us, anyone who threatens our sense of identity. Look at our political landscape. The intense hatred, the inability to see any good in the other side. This isn't really about policy differences. This is shadow projection on a massive scale. The wholeness we won't claim gets projected onto leaders who promise to save us, gurus who claim to have all the answers, ideologies that offer simple solutions to complex problems. The transcendence we long for gets channeled into consumption, into the next purchase that will finally make us happy, the next achievement that will finally make us worthy. We become unconsciously driven by forces we don't understand, buying things we don't need, hating people we don't know, searching for something we can't name because we've forgotten the language that would help us understand what we're really seeking. But this isn't just about individual psychology anymore. This is about collective healing. When enough individuals become conscious of these patterns, when enough people stop projecting their shadows and start integrating them, that's when the world begins to change. Here's the beautiful truth Jung discovered. You don't have to live unconsciously driven by these forces. You can come home to them. You can befriend them. You can let them guide you toward who you're meant to become. The path home begins with paying attention. Start with your dreams. Not just the ones you have at night, but the ones that have been calling to you during the day. The visions that won't leave you alone. The symbols that keep appearing in your life. Keep a journal beside your bed. When you wake up, before you check your phone, write down whatever fragments you remember. Don't worry about making sense of them. Just record them. Over time, patterns will emerge. Recurring symbols, repeating themes, messages from your unconscious that are trying to guide you toward healing, toward wholeness, toward the next step in your journey. Pay attention to your strong reactions, especially the ones that surprise you. That person who irritates you for no clear reason, they might be showing you your shadow. Ask yourself, what quality is this person embodying that triggers such a strong response in me? Notice the stories that move you to tears, the characters you can't stop thinking about, the movies that hit you in ways you can't explain. These aren't random preferences. They're your psyche showing you which archetypal energies are active in your life. Create space for the unconscious to speak. This might be through meditation, through long walks in nature, through creative expression, through simply being still enough to hear what's always been there. The unconscious speaks in whispers, in images, in feelings that arise when you're not trying to control them. It needs space to emerge. It needs your attention without your judgment. Most importantly, start believing that you're more than you think you are, that your life is connected to something larger than your individual experience, that your healing matters not just to you, but to the world. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are not the first person to feel the way you feel or face the challenges you're facing. You are part of an ancient story that's still being written. Your individual journey is your unique contribution to the great human experiment of becoming conscious. When you begin to live consciously connected to the collective unconscious, everything changes. Life stops feeling random. Your experiences start revealing patterns. Your relationships become teachers. Your challenges become initiations into deeper levels of yourself. You realize that breakdown often precedes breakthrough, that your worst moments have often been preparation for your greatest growth, that the very things you've been ashamed of might be your greatest gifts in disguise. That relationship that broke your heart? It wasn't just your heartbreak. It was the archetypal experience of learning to love more deeply, more wisely. It was your heart breaking open to hold more compassion for every human who has ever loved and lost. That creative project that won't leave you alone. It's not just your idea. It's the collective unconscious trying to birth something new through you. It's evolution itself trying to express the next level of human consciousness through your unique perspective. That period of depression that felt like it was destroying you? It wasn't destruction, it was composting. It was the breakdown of who you thought you were to make space for who you're becoming. You start to see that you're not just living your life. You're living life itself, in all its archetypal beauty and terror and wonder. This doesn't make your experience less unique. It makes it more meaningful. You're not just surviving, you're participating in consciousness evolution. You're not just healing yourself, you're contributing to the healing of humanity. Because individual consciousness and collective consciousness are inseparable. When you become more conscious, you raise the consciousness of everyone around you. When you integrate your shadow, you reduce the shadow in the world. When you become more whole, you contribute to the wholeness of our species. Every time you choose consciousness over unconsciousness, integration over projection, love over fear, you're voting for the kind of world you want to live in. You're contributing to the great work of human evolution. So here's my invitation to you. Start paying attention. Start listening. Start noticing the patterns that have been shaping your life from the shadows. Begin tonight. Keep a journal beside your bed. Record your dreams, no matter how strange. Notice which stories consistently move you. Create space for the unconscious to speak, through meditation, through creativity, through simply being still enough to hear what's been trying to reach you. Pay attention to your strong reactions. Get curious about what they're teaching you about yourself. Consider working with someone who understands this territory. But most importantly, start believing that you're part of something larger than your individual story. That your healing contributes to the healing of the world. That your consciousness matters. That your journey toward wholeness is sacred work. You are not alone in your struggles. You carry within you the wisdom of every human who has walked this path before you. And you have the opportunity to add your own wisdom to that great collection. The collective unconscious is not just ancient history. It's alive in you right now. It's calling you home to yourself. It's inviting you to remember what you've always known, but forgotten. That you are connected to something infinitely larger than your individual experience. What archetype is calling to you right now? What part of yourself is ready to be acknowledged, integrated, lived more fully? Your shadow wants to be seen. Your inner opposite wants to be expressed. Your truest self wants to be lived. Your hero's journey wants to unfold. The only question is, are you ready to answer the call? Because the world needs what you came here to give. The world needs your unique expression of these universal patterns. The world needs your healing, your consciousness, your contribution to the great work of human evolution. You are not too broken. You are not too small. You are not too late. You are exactly what the world needs right now. What are you being called to face? What are you being called to become? The collective unconscious is waiting for your answer.